Hi friends, I am so excited. This is my fourth video this week and probably the video I'm most excited about because today I'm seeing Dream Scenario. I didn't think that this was even going to come out in Australia, that I'd have the opportunity to go see it, and so I didn't look into this film too much. But last week when I went and saw Dix the Musical, if you haven't watched my wrap up, check it out, the trailer played. I put my head down, as I usually do. Sometimes I try and escape the cinema, but I put my head down. What I heard was maybe the coolest storyline of all time, and I am so down. I was already so excited about this movie that stars Nicolas Cage, and I just didn't know what to expect. But from what I've heard, literally, the premise is just mind-blowing. This is by the same director who did Sick of Myself, which I just talked about recently and about how much I love this film. The movie stars Nicolas Cage, of course, and Julianne Nicholson, as well as Lady Bird. And it's about a family man whose life turns upside down when he starts appearing in people's dreams. He becomes this culture phenomenon because he's in everyone's dreams. And what comes from that somehow turns into a horror movie. Actually, this is a comedy horror movie. I am just so excited to see this film. It sounds very creative. I think that it's a really cool subject matter, and you know me, I love originality and I love anything that can keep me on my toes. So let's go check out Dream Scenario. I'll let you guys know whether it's worth running out to the cinema to watch straight away, and if it's as unique as I hope it to be. Let's go. I just got out Dream Scenario. My jaw was open during a lot of that film. That film was fucking awesome, but very unexpected. It didn't go down the way I thought it would. And I should have known better because afterwards I realized that Ari Aster was an executive producer on this film, and it makes so much sense. That doesn't mean that he didn't write it, the director wrote it, but it makes sense because it's very much Beau is Afraid mixed with Sick of Myself, just the kind of stylization, but obviously it's a completely unique premise, which was amazing, and they took it all the way there. It is an A24 film, so complete creative control, and they really went with it. This film was funny, very dry humor though, but scary in a very psychological way, which I didn't even expect. But of course, if we're dealing with dreams, things are going to be psychological, and this was psychological levels. There were levels and layers. It wasn't scary for a long time, but it had complete tonal shifts, and it's a very scary premise or scenario that they're presenting to you. As stated, the movie is about an average man who one day realizes that he is showing up in people's dreams, people who don't even know him. And the film is about the consequences of that. And it's just beyond anything that you could have dreamt. It's kind of dystopian, some of the results of the scenario. It just really takes that idea and explores every facet of it. Okay, there's a couple of things I really think that this film nails. Number one, Nicolas Cage. He's the perfect person for this film. Not only is he very recognizable, he's also quite average looking. Like, he doesn't look, we know him as Nicolas Cage, but he is like the perfect kind of icon for this, where he is quite average looking, but he's also such a well-known person because of other reasons, but he was just so well casted to this role, and he plays it so well. But the thing I liked the most about this film was the editing. I thought it was really interesting how they show kind of dream sequences and flashing in and out of that, and then just some of the shots they chose transition-wise kept this kind of weird stirring. And although the film, especially the start of it, maybe even the first half of it, is really meant to be funny, there's such crazy tonal shifts, and to be able to put that together, it is a real masterpiece. I definitely think some people in the audience today didn't know that it was meant to be kind of horror and were really thrown by some of the scenes, but it was just done so well. It's a very hard thing to pull off, to go from straight up, like a very comedic scene to something that is horrific, and they did that really well. They really got inside your head, so it was really interesting from a psychological perspective watching the film. And it's a very good film to kind of analyze because there's all of these different facets, and because everyone can kind of relate in a way that we are all connected by, well, I guess most of us, dream. So I felt like it was just such a good setup and idea, and then also having Nicolas Cage as the face of it was great, but the editing really tied everything together and made it slick but sinister and funny, which is such a wild combination. So if people are going in to look to watch a kind of film, and I know I say this all the time, but to scratch an itch, this is kind of not that. This is going to be a film that's going to really challenge you and challenge where you think it's going and let it surprise you. If you're open for that, I get sometimes you just want to go to the movies and watch, you know, a Godzilla film, which is exactly playing at the movies right now, but this one is definitely more of a challenging film, which I really enjoy. I also love with the editing style how they incorporated music into it. There's a lot of silent scenes that intentionally you can't hear what people are saying, but also there's this beautiful kind of classical soundtrack in the background that really bookends the movie. I'm not saying it's a theme or anything like that, but it was just shown in such a classical story kind of way, and I just really enjoyed all of the music in this film. There's also a couple of I wouldn't say surprise, I'm sure you could look it up on IMDb, but I don't want to ruin it for you, but there are a couple of really cool featured actors in this film. Nicolas Cage, of course, touches on many people's lives in this film, and so you get to see some of that, and it had a lot of cool creative minds behind it. But the one thing I did not love about this film, and it kind of took me out of it, was towards the end. I would say like before the final act, there's a little bit of another shift in the tone. It didn't really fit the rest of the film and the way the flow was going. So I will say that kind of like bumped it down like a whole star for me. It's not like I hated that part, but it felt very Black Mirror, and I wish that that would be its own thing. I felt like we were onto a good thing following the perspective of Nicolas Cage. And I'm not saying it's not following the perspective, it's just something that comes in that was unexpected. I think that this film is a fantastic idea, and although films have kind of touched on dreams and nightmares, they haven't touched on it like this, and the way the consequences, how they float down, and how that applies to 2023, it really applied to modern technology and the way that celebrities are created and instant fame and going viral and memes. It was really interesting, and I feel like this, as I said earlier, this film can be analyzed because there's just so many different layers and so many different things you can take out of it. There is a lot of metaphors that are in plain sight. It's just the psychological aspect of it, of everyone dreaming about him. It's such a conversational starter, and I think I'll be wondering about this one for a long time and thinking about it. If you're after a dry comedic film with a horror twist that's deeply, I think at its core, a psychological drama thriller, this one is for you. It's going to challenge you. If you like going to the cinema and you like being challenged, this film is for you. This one is genre bending and isn't afraid to be. I think it pulls it off really well with all of the editing and design. It's also a very beautiful film. The cinematography is just stunning. If you like fall films, this one, it has it all. Other than just a little bit of a pivot in the film, I absolutely adored it. I was gonna give it a 9, but I kind of changed. I think I'm gonna have to give it an 8 out of 10. I feel like I've been giving a lot of 8s out this year, but that's good. That's on the good side of the scale, so that's a pro for me. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of originality. Even though you might think other films touch on dreams, they don't like this. The flow, the structure of it, the twists, the turns, the happy, the sad, and the scary. I think it was fantastic. For scare, there is a tiny bit of gore. In terms of scare, I would be happy watching this with someone who was scared of horror. People are more connected to dreams and nightmares because it feels very close to home. It's something that everyone can relate to. So it touches a lot on the mental implications of that. So I think it's quite a dark film, but I don't think it's quite scary. A 2 for scare. If I had to say darkness or disturbing, probably like a 4 or a 5. It definitely balances back out. I almost had a tear in my eye at the end. Anyway, I can't wait to see what you all think of Dream Scenario. I am so excited to see the comments. But if you're looking to watch something else from home this month, I've already done this video, which is showing what is streaming this month on VOD. Check it out, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.